I do some dancing. And this cause really buzzed me a little bit. So what I'm going to be talking about today, or tonight, is honeybees. There are a lot of different types of bees. There's actually over 20,000 species. But honeybees, there's just 7 recognized species of them with 44 subspecies. So what I'll be talking about tonight when I refer to the bees is honeybee. And most of the things I'll be talking about will be about managed hives, which what managed hives are, if you don't know, is the commercial use of bees and beekeepers that use their bees to pollinate crops. And they travel with them and use them on a corporate level and on a farming level. So if you don't know what pollinating is, does anyone not know what pollinating is? I'll tell you. Thank you. Okay. Now, bees pollinate about 1/3 of our food. 1/3. Now, that's about, in an agricultural point of view, $15 billion in the United States. 15 billion. Various things like apples, carrots, avocados, and almonds, pumpkins, onions, cucumbers, squash, sunflowers, cotton, alfalfa, sugar beets, olives, grapes. No wine, y'all, that's a problem. And of course, we use their beeswax and we use their honey. Now, the honeybees that we have currently aren't indigenous to here. They are actually brought by the settlers to America during the New World when everyone was, coming over here. And they're very, very social creatures. So now they use dance as their main communication, which is why another thing that I love them so much. When they talk, they dance. They do things like the waggle dance, where they're just, waggling their booties. And they do their tremble dance, which, what a tremble dance is they just they shake and they vibrate when they come back with the pollen and nectar that needs to be taken off of them so they can go get more. And they have a round dance, which they just start in a little circle, and all the other bees start, and they just dance together, and no one really knows what that is. They just, whatever. Okay, so, yeah. So yeah, 1/3 of our food is quite a bit. So what I'll be discussing in detail is what's called colony collapse disorder, which is CCD. So when you hear me say CCD, that's what I'm talking about. The definition of that is the inexplicable absence of the majority of a bee's hive. Basically, the majority of the bee's hive disappear. They fly away and die committing suicide. Because if they don't stay in their hive, they die. So they just disappear. And cases of CCD have escalated since 2006. Some of the USDA research that I've looked at has said that CCD may have been present since 2002, but was on a very low scale. Normal turnover rate is under 20% for the yearly turnover for the managed hives. And through October to December of 2006, it escalated beyond that. Beekeepers reported 30 to 90% death rate. In September 2007 to March 2008, the average loss of each beehive keeper was 36%. Now again, the normal turnover rate's about under 20%, anywhere from 10 to 20%, especially in winter because it gets cold and they can easily die from that. And there are many environmental contributing factors such as fungus and mites and viruses, which is what all of the pesticide companies are saying is what's causing this. However, the only research that I found that was not done by the pesticides companies, because most of it out there is done by them, which is, I don't really trust that. Not at all. Don't think so. So, these factors that they're saying is happening, the viruses, the mites, the other parasites, stress, it's being linked to pesticide use. And the pesticides are lowering their immune system, making them more susceptible to parasites and other microorganisms. Now, commercial honeybees are more likely to have the cases of CCD because of their use on commercial crops. They are easily able to move to other places to pollinate different crops, so they're exposed to more toxic chemicals. There is some talk from these fantastic, wonderful line companies, pesticide companies, that are talking about, well, we should just make some genetically modified bees. Yeah. Because that just fixes everything. Now what they do to actually do these tests, the researchers, is they collect the pollen and the wax from the hives, because that's where they live the most, that's where they stay the most. All of the research that has been done by these pesticide companies has been, they test one single chemical in a controlled environment on the bee. They do not test multiple chemicals that they are exposed to at extreme high rates that they use in current crops, and they do not test all of the condensed chemicals that are brought back into one place in the hive that all the bees live in and ingest. So I call bullshit on that. Now there is a gut parasite that there has been a lot of cases of called the Nosema curinae. I think that's how you say it. It's a gut pathogen that basically blocks them. They can't digest, they get really ill. They don't, if they get exposed to it in the autumn, they don't prepare properly for winter, and most of them die and the colony collapses. Now most plants and crops are pre-treated with pesticides or they're genetically modified, so it's in the pollen and exposes the bees directly or indirectly, which means that that contaminated pollen is carried by the wind outside of the crops. And once in the soil, those pesticides, they linger for months to years, contaminating future crops and exposing even more bees. Now sometimes during the winter, the beekeepers, they supplement their food, because they stay in the nest, with syrup or sugar, which both can contain pesticides. One of the biggest insecticides right now is neonicotinoids. Neonicotinoids, I'm saying that just that once. I'm going to now refer to neonics, so I don't have to say that a lot. They're on a real rise. They use nicotine base to attack the nervous system of the insects. So it shuts their bodies down. And research done by a Harvard scientist, Chen-Shuang Liu, reports that those neonics are the most damaging out of all insecticides to them. The European Union has put a ban on 3 different of them, and they've already seen a bounce back. The EPA is coming under fire because they don't care. They're bought off, you know? They're ridiculous. Do you know that they actually allow these pesticide companies to do their own research and submit it even years after they've already been in use? I'll go into a little bit of research from PLOS One. If you go to PLOS1.org, you can look into it. They did a huge research project on 9 different hives and 7 crops all across the US. They did it on insecticides and fungicides. And they showed that it basically, those used, it contributed to their immune system to unable to fight properly against parasites and pathogens. And it alters their enzyme activity. It also alters their development, their behavior, their offspring sex ratios, mobility, navigation orientation, feeding behavior, their learning function, and immune function. Their immune function, it just makes them more susceptible to the diseases and fungi. And it also affects the spiders as well. There's actually starting to be some issues with spider species. Now, they do go outside of their own crops, so that is very much a concern of, even if they are in a space where it's organic and they aren't using chemicals, they do travel outside that. I don't know if anyone knows, over at Whole Foods they have a beehive. They're now sick because they travel outside, and we do have an area where a lot of chemicals are used. So locally here, we're seeing an impact. So now I'm going to tell you a story about some happy little bees. Where are my happy bees? Happy bees, happy bees. honeybees, they've discovered a beautiful field of flowers. I mean, would you just look at it? It is beautiful. Now, up until this point, they have never known what a pesticide is. They have no idea. All they do is just go around flying, finding flowers. They do their dances. They do the wiggle dance. They do the trimmer dance. And then they just do, a little round dance. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, hi. But then one day, they come across genetically modified plants. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I've never seen these before. They look fine. Well, we're gonna pollinate them because we're hungry. We're gonna get the pollen. Get the pollen! So they get the pollen and they take it back all the way to the nest. Like, oh my goodness, look at what we have. We're so excited. Such great pollen. And then they get there and all of a sudden they don't feel too good. Like, not at all. And they go back to that plant and they're like, well, I'm kind of hungry and, but I don't feel like I'm getting much nutrition because actually genetically modified plants, a lot of them are devoid of nutrition and their pollen, so they can starve if they try to eat from them. Well, they start feeling really ill. Their tummy's hurting, they just can't digest. They can't at all. And then, just like that, they die. Now once they start dying, it's a domino effect, especially if it's the queen. If the queen gets infected with something, that's it, the whole colony's doomed. So pretty soon, they all leave the nest, and they're gone. And that's it. The bees die. Let me tell you what'll happen if the bees go. 1/3 of our food will disappear. Our society will collapse. Our agriculture will collapse. The farms will have 1/3 less crops and income, not just affecting the jobs and economy, but all those small businesses and corporations. You ever seen Bee Movie? Where the bees stopped pollinating once they got all their honey and everything started dying? Yeah, that, but food, not just the flowers. Our society will collapse. We will go into an apocalyptic time. This is serious, people. So what can you do? Well, for one, if you can, at least sign a petition. Do some research, educate yourself, educate other people. If you want to look at some great documentaries, there's a couple of them. I got one here called More Than Honey. You can go to morethanhoneyfilm.com. It's a global investigative documentary by Oscar-nominated director Marcus Imhoff. They travel from California to Switzerland, China, and Australia, and they look at it, CCD happening all around the world, because these are the countries that use the most pesticides. It's won numerous awards. You can host a screening or find a screening in a bigger city. You can just educate yourself. There's another documentary here in the US that shows CCD happening here. It's called Vanishing of the Bees. You can go to vanishingbees.com. And it also is a winner of numerous awards. You can donate to them to help them get the film into schools to educate the children. Because the children are the next generation. If we don't educate them, then we'll never get out of this cycle. You can host a screening. You can go to their Take Action tab and they can give you tips on how to grow your own garden. You can purchase the DVD or an educational booklet for yourself. If you want to do something more hands-on, go to thegreatsunflowerproject.org. They're also on Facebook. Now, since 2008, they have had citizens gather bee pollinating information by simply having some sort of bee attracting plant or flower And for a few days a week, for 15 minutes, you just sit there and you document how many bees come and go, how long they stay, and you submit that research to them. And currently there is no such map that exists over the entire United States to help map out the pollinators across America, how they're doing, where their numbers are, if there's any huge shifts, if there's a big outbreak of CCD happening. It helps give a scientific base to really make a difference. So basically, if you like to eat, and you like to not have to live in the country with shotguns to protect your food, I highly suggest you save a bee.
And I thought the paper being left behind was bad. Eliza Luminara, ladies and gentlemen, and a couple of dead bees. Well,